Okay, I suppose everything is clear, right? Good evening, people. Yes, good evening, Naranjan. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. So, how's it going for all of you? School? Oh, I know school is not working, right? So, how's it going? Otherwise, how's lockdown? Hmm?
We are working,
Sir,
sir.
Yeah, you're
We have
working.
school.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
We have school, sir. We don't have any holidays.
But again, recently, government said that the schools are closed, isn't it?
Yes, sir. But my school told you guys are writing board exams, so you need to come.
Exception for CBSE schools.
Sorry, I didn't hear. What is it?
There's an exception for CBSE schools. I mean, especially
Nothing
CBSE.
like that. Who are those? Your school told you this. There is an exemption to CBSE schools.
No, I read it on the paper.
There is nothing like that. If it's a Tamil Nadu government's order, as long as the school is in Tamil Nadu, they have to abide by the order. Still, anyways, doesn't matter.
Sir,
Maybe for
in
10th,
they're conducting online exams, sir.
online exams. Even for my brother, he's in 11th class. For him also, only online exams are going on. The board exams are cancelled. He is from this thing. He is studying in PS Metric, Mylapore. For him, it's online exam only. Like for most of you, I think it will be online exam. But for I think 10th board exam should happen. But my last year, my brother was in 10th. They didn't even conduct online exam, board exams. You know that, right? Like with whatever the school marks, which he secured. So based on that, they gave him some marks. That's how it was. Anyways, right, cool. So today it is supposed to be yes. Anything else you want to tell?
No, sir.
Okay, cool. So we today's topic is carbon and its compounds. Right, my favorite topic in 10th class. I think someone has to mute. Okay, someone. Okay, I think still it is not muted. I guess. Please check everybody if you are muted yourself. One second. Okay, cool. I think now it's fine. Right. So my favorite test this is the favorite topic, but a lot of this portion, a lot of the syllabus from this particular chapter is taken out, especially the IUPAC naming and the I stuff are taken out, isn't it? You don't have IUPAC naming, correct?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So what I understand is you have to understand why carbon forms so much compounds, right? And then the homologous series. What are the different functional groups, right? Isomerism. Do you have isomerism?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So very limited portions only are there. We'll take maybe we'll have a very quick discussion of whatever it is. Okay. Right. So the first things first. Why we need to study about carbon? There are almost like 118 elements in the periodic table. Right. Recently, I think 1 or 2 years back, they added one more element. So it's 118. Before it was 117. So of all the elements in the periodic table, why is it that carbon is so important? Right? Why do we even have a chapter? Why don't we have a chapter for sodium? Why don't we have a chapter for lithium? Why don't we have a chapter for calcium? But we have a chapter for carbon, right? So why is it so important is the question, right? Now the answer to the question is everything alive you see, every living thing you see, right? They're actually made up of carbon molecules. So basically they're compounds of carbon, right? Say for example, if you take, like, we'll go to the basis of all the living beings. We know cell is the structural unit. Cell is the basic unit of any living being, isn't it? So you see this cell, all the components of the cell, there are something called as cell wall, mitochondria, RNA, DNA, so many stuff, and all these things, all of these are actually compounds of carbon. Okay. Now, when you go to higher levels, you know something called as proteins. We know something we have called as DNAs, RNAs, right? Your hereditary material, all the other things, sugars, what you use, right? Your body contains glucose, right? So all these are carbon compounds, right? So what we have to understand is two things. One thing is why or how is it that carbon is able to form so many compounds? What is so special about carbon that, like, say, if I'm going to take the number of compounds formed by carbon and I'm going to compare it with all the compounds found by all the other elements in the periodic table. Right? I'm take one side, I have carbon on this compounds, and the other side, I'm going to take all the other elements as compounds. You see that the number of compounds found by carbon is enormous. You cannot even compare the number of compounds found by carbon with other elements. It is huge. It is enormous. Right? So why is it like this? Right? So there are a few reasons given to this. Right? So the speciality of carbon, the first property is what is called as your catenation property. Right? Fine. So someone wants to tell about what is catenation? What do you mean by catenation?
The
It's
unique ability to form bonds with other atoms of carbon, giving rise to large molecules.
Absolutely. Right. So it is the ability, or if I don't speak about carbon, generally, if I ask you what is catenation, right? Catenation is the ability of the element to form bonds with itself. Means carbon, phosphorus means phosphorus, right? So it is the ability of the element to form bonds with itself to form a long chain compound, to form a long chain of bonds of itself. That property is what is called as catenation. Right? Say you can have carbon, 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 carbon like this. Like I can just go on. I have compounds where I have almost like 1,000 carbon atoms in it. Right? So if you take your drugs, say paracetamol, like famous drug you take, right? That is also a carbon compound. Right? You will see that there are almost like going to be more than 100 carbon atoms there. Right? So this property, right, you can make big chains of big. If you take proteins, for example, proteins are very complex structures, right? So proteins is molecular mass. You have studied about molecular masses, right? So protein has a molecular mass of around 10,000, right? It's because it is having so many number of carbon atoms. Not only carbon, you will have some other elements also in that, but majority framework, right, is given by the carbon unit. Right? So that is the first property. This is what makes carbon special. Now you can ask me, sir, is there any other element in the periodic table which is capable of showing this property catenation? Do you know any other element which is capable of, other than carbon, is there any element capable of showing me catenation?
sulfur, silicon.
Yes, sulfur, silicon, all these are capable of showing catenation. But carbon has the maximum tendency to show catenation. Like even though other things like show catenation, but maybe like just give me a rough estimate. Maybe only up to 50 silicons can be continuously joined together, not more than that. But carbon, there is no limit to it. Okay, fine. So of sulfur, phosphorus, or not phosphorus, even phosphorus to some extent, but very little. But sulfur and silicon are other very good examples other than carbon to show catenation. Good, right? Fine. That's the first property which makes carbon very special. The other one is what is my tetravalency, right? Okay. Now we know that carbon contains 4 valence electrons. It has 2, 4 as the configuration. 6 is atomic number, right? So we write the electronic configuration as 2, 4, right? So what you see here is carbon is going to have 4 electrons on its valence shell, right? So generally, if you go for any ionic bond, and we know what happens in an ionic bond. In an ionic bond, the electrons get transferred. Either they get added or they are lost. For example, in sodium chloride, we have already studied sodium loses electron, chlorine accepts electron. So those things happen, right? But if in case of carbon, you are going to check, right? Carbon has 4 valence electrons. So in order to attain octet, right? In order to attain octet, now if at all it is going to form an ionic bond, assuming that it is going to form an ionic bond, there are 2 possibilities. The 2 possibilities would be to remove all the 4 electrons, right? If you remove all the 4 electrons, only 2 electrons will be remaining. So duplet is satisfied, right? Or you can add 4 more electrons to carbon so that it becomes 2, 8. So octet is satisfied. So removing 4 electrons, duplet is satisfied. Adding 4 electrons, octet is satisfied, right? But carbon is not going to do any of this, right? Why? We have already discussed, anything which happens in chemistry, right? Anything which happens, any kind of chemical transformation you see in chemistry, right, will happen with minimum energy expenditure, right? The pathway, say a reaction happens, right? So the reaction pathway, how the reaction happens, there can be multiple pathways for the reaction to happen, right? For A giving B is a reaction, right? So how is it that A is able to give B? There can be multiple paths, just like from your school to your house, there can be multiple roads for you to reach, right? So obviously like that, for every chemical reaction, there'll always be multiple paths, right? Now, which path is chosen, right? Which path is chosen is decided by in which path I spend the least amount of energy, or in which path it is very easy to undergo the transformation, right? Just like how you choose whichever is the shortest distance, whichever path you have less traffic, that path only you choose when you go to school. Same here, minimum energy expenditure, right? So for adding 4 electrons or for removing 4 electrons, lot of energy is required, right? So that's why carbon doesn't form any ionic compounds. All it forms are only going to be covalent bonds, right? Say for example, I can have methane, which can have again hydrogens. 4 hydrogens are going to come, right? So a hydrogen atom has 1 electron in the net valence shell, totally only 1 electron, right? So hydrogen requires 2 electrons, this hydrogen 2, this hydrogen 2, this hydrogen 2, right? So next what will happen? Carbon requires 4 more electrons, so it is going to take all the 4 electrons coming from 4 hydrogen molecule, right? So this way they are going to form covalent bonds and not ionic bonds. We know what are covalent bonds. Covalent bonds are going to be in the form of mutual sharing of electrons and not transfer of electrons, right? Fine. So you see that if at all I have, so basically each of the carbon atom is going to have 4 bonds attached to it. Basically 4 other atoms are going to get attached to it. It can be anything. It can be carbon, it can be nitrogen, it can be hydrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, it can be anything. OH, like any other atom, any other element in the periodic table can satisfy any one of these bonds, or all of them can be carbon also, right? But if you're going to put carbon, again, you have to satisfy 3 more bonds, 3 more bonds, 3 more bonds, 3 more bonds. All these have to satisfy. A huge network of carbon atoms can be formed, right? Okay. So the first property was catenation, which makes it special, and the second property is tetravalency. Okay, fine. So we understood. Okay. So next, the next property which makes carbon so special is the ability to form multiple bonds. Well, I'll tell you what are these multiple bonds. Multiple bonds with itself. That's a better way of putting it, right? What do I mean? What do I mean by this? I mean that I have carbon between 2 carbon atoms. I can have a single bond, 1 bond only, right? Or I can have a C double bond C, or I can have a C triple bond C. Like I think you should have known about alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes, right? Or if you don't know, don't worry about it. You'll be able to study about them in time class. Okay. So carbon has a very unique property that can form either single bonds or double bonds or triple bonds with itself. That again makes it special, right? Okay. So these 3 are the main reasons why carbon can form so many enormous number of compounds, right? Catenation, tetravalency, and the ability to form multiple bonds with itself. Right? You can ask me, sir, why is I have basically you see if I take a triple bond, for example, right? So each of the carbon gives 3 electrons here, and you will see that 1 more electron is left out. Again, that electron will be satisfied by some other element, say hydrogen or some other element for that matter. Okay. Now you can ask me, sir, what if can I have 4 bonds between 2 carbon atoms? Right? The answer is no. Not only carbon, no other element in the periodic table, nothing can form 4 bonds between themselves. It's not possible, right? Now there are reasons to this, right? If I explain you now, again you'll not understand, because you have to know what are these s orbitals, p orbitals, and all these stuff. So for now, understand that maximum number of bonds between 2 elements, any 2 elements, is 3, not more than that. Okay. Now you can ask me, sir, is there any other element which is capable of forming this? Yes, it is possible. Nitrogen is an example. Nitrogen can form double bonds, to some extent triple bonds, but single bonds are not possible, right? Same way with oxygen. Oxygen can form double bond and single bond, not triple bond. So like that, you see carbon has all capabilities of forming all the 3 bonds: single bond, double bond, as well as triple bond. No other element has that. Okay, right. Fine. So these are all the things which makes carbon so special and which makes it form so many number of compounds. Okay, good. Right. So moving on. This is what makes carbon so special. Now we have to understand what are the say how carbon exists in nature, right? So carbon, how it exists in nature, that is what is called as allotropes. Is it not? Right. So what do you mean by allotropy? When I say allotropy, right? So allotropy means what? Can someone tell me what is allotropy? You have this in the syllabus, I guess. You have allotropes of carbon, correct?
Existence of a chemical element in two or more forms.
I didn't hear it properly. Can you repeat again, Tanna?
Existence of chemical element in two or more forms.
Okay, right. So that's right. So when I say allotropy, it is the phenomenon of a one particular element existing in different physical forms. That's the exact way of putting it, right? One element existing in different physical forms. Okay, for example, water, you take that, but that is not an element, but still, let's give you an example. If I take water, it can be form of ice, it can be form of liquid water, or it can be form of steam, that is water vapor, right? So that again, we cannot call it as allotropy because it is not an element, it's a compound, H2O, more than one element is there. But if that particular phenomena, that is that phenomena of elements existing in different physical forms in nature, that is only for allotropy. If it's an element, then only it is allotropy, right? And what do you mean by allotropes? What are these physical forms, right? The phenomenon is called allotropy. What are the physical forms? Those physical forms are what are called as allotropes, right? Okay, so we have, I don't know whether you know that we have 4 allotropes of carbon. One was the recent one. Anyways, we'll just list it out. Yes, can quickly list it out? What is the first one?
Diamond, graphite,
Yes.
and
Buckminster Fuller.
Yes. Okay, diamond, graphite, and fullerenes. It's Buckminster fullerenes. We'll just write fullerenes, or it is also called as carbon 60, but not necessarily. It can be carbon 70, carbon 80. All those things are newly formed. Your research is coming up, right? Now, these 3 things you already know. Now, the recent inclusion in this allotropes, right, are what are called as graphenes. You don't you don't have to write it in the paper examination. This is just for an extra information, right? The 4th allotrope, the 4th form, physical form in which carbon exists, are what are called as graphenes. But these graphenes are not naturally occurring. These are chemically synthesized in laboratory, or say to some methods, right? They are synthetically prepared. They are not naturally available. Even to some extent, fullerenes is also not like say naturally available. It is actually mostly you will see only in the form of synthetic materials, like they are manually prepared, not naturally available. But yeah, first 2, diamond and graphite, obviously they exist in nature. They are naturally available, right? So they're going to have different physical properties, in the sense that they will have different melting points, boiling points, refractive index, anything, whatever you take, any other color to some extent, density, hardness, right? All these will be different for all these 4 different allotropes of carbon, right? Fine. So if we know diamond, right? Diamond is very hard, one of the hardest substance known on earth, right? So you have to understand how the bonding is with respect to diamond, right? So it's very simple. You know, carbon can have 4 bonds, right? And all the 4 bonds are satisfied by carbon. Again, this carbon again needs to have 3 more bonds. This needs 3 more bonds. This needs 3 more bonds. Every bond you see, everything you see, all are carbons. So you have basically what you have to understand is whatever may be the number of carbon atoms, say 1,000 carbon atoms, right? All the 1,000 carbon atoms are gonna have 4 bonds, and all these 4 bonds are again carbon. That's what you need to understand. Okay, so it's a very huge 3D network. You see only 2D here, and I will not be able to show you 3D, but you can understand. Say instead of putting this bond here, I can make the bond come towards you, right? So that again can have 3 more. Again, that will have so many things happening in the space. right? So what you have to understand is all are carbon atoms, and all the carbon atoms has four bonds, and all these 4 bonds are satisfied only by carbon atoms. As simple as that. Okay, it's a 3D network, a covalent 3D network of carbon atoms. Right? Okay, that's the simplest way of putting it. Right? Fine. Next is about graphite. Right? Now the difference between diamond and graphite is little soft. Right? And we know diamond is a very bad conductor of electricity. Right? But it's a good conductor of heat. Diamond is a very good conductor of heat, but a bad conductor of electricity. Right? Now, when I go to graphite is a decent conductor of electricity as well as heat. Right? Okay, now what makes graphite conduct electricity is the question. Anybody wants to comment? What makes graphite conduct electricity and why not diamond?
So graphite has freely moving electrons. They conduct electricity.
How is it that they have freely moving electrons?
So in their 3D structure, there is always one electron which does not have any bond. So they conduct electricity.
Okay, I understand. Right. So yeah, what you said is absolutely right. So what I want to know is how is it that the free electrons are there? It is very simple. You know, again, carbon is going to have 4 bonds, or say 4 atoms, 4 other atoms are needed to satisfy this tetravalency, right? But in graphite, what will you see is that I'm going to have only 3. One carbon atom will be attached to only 3 other carbon atoms. Same way, this will be attached to only 3 other carbon atoms. So all the carbon atoms will have 1 electron which is not involving in bonding. Right? So in the valence shell, we know 4 electrons are there for each carbon. Out of the only 3 will be involving in bonding for all the carbon atoms. Right? So what will you see is that 1 electron which is not going to involve in bonding, and this electron is what is called as your free electron. Right? So as I already told you when we discussed your metals or non-metals, for anything to be a good conductor of electricity, right, there should be something called as charge carriers. Right? So charge carriers can be in the form of electrons, it can be in the form of ions, positive ion, negative ion. Right? So something should be there, some amount of charge carriers. There should be some charge which should be able to move through the conductor, which should be there. Only then I will be able to conduct electricity. Right? So what you see here is this free electrons are not involving in bonding are responsible for graphite to be a good conductor of electricity. Okay, fine. Then fullerenes, we don't have to study much about it. Like, it's very simple. It is going to be in the form of a ball. 60 carbon atoms are going to get attached together to form a ball. Very simple, right? Okay. Now, what are graphenes? Maybe you don't require, but still you can know it. Very simple, right? So you know the graphite will be layers and layers of carbon atoms, right? Is it not? You'll have layers. All these are carbon atoms. You'll see that all of them are attached, so on and so forth. Just give me a moment, people. Okay, I'm sorry, I got a call. My mute? No. Okay, cool. So what I understand is this graphite. You see, oh God. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so you see, this graphite will be layers and layers of carbon atoms. Okay, that is how it is. But diamond is not like that. Diamond will be a 3D structure, network of carbon atoms. Right? So here, graphite will be layers and layers of carbon atoms. That is how it is. That is why they're able to conduct electricity also. Right? Through these layers, the electrons can move this side or that side, whatever side, and they will be able to conduct electricity. Right? Okay. So from graphite, right, if I take a single layer of graphite, one layer of carbon atom I isolate, right, that is what is called as graphene. Okay. Now graphene is a superconductor. Nice fancy words, isn't it? Right. So what are superconductors? Very simple, right? So any conductor will have a resistance. We know Ohm's law, right? Ohm's law says the potential difference across the conductor is going to be directly proportional to the current flowing through the conductor at constant temperature. We know that. and by that we'll getting the equation V is equal to IR, where R is the resistance, right? So any conductor for that matter, anything where the electron flows will have some resistance to the flow or resistance to the flow of current, right? So okay, fine. Superconductors are going to have almost zero resistance, right? They're going to have almost zero resistance. Okay, and they can be used as magnets also. Like the recent studies show that graphenes can be made into magnets. To producing magnets, they're used. Superconductors are used in supercomputers, right? Your quantum computing. I'm telling you some big words. Don't worry about it. Just telling you extra information. If you want to take it, if you want to study about it, just Google graphite, right? Graphite and sorry, not graphite, graphene and its applications. You will see so many amazing applications. Right? When you put in YouTube, you will see a lot of animated videos also. Okay, so these are all the 4 allotropes of carbon. Again, this is the recent one. That is why it is not included in the NCERT. Obviously, they will not update their books whenever they update. Right? Anyways, so these 3 are very important, and this is a new one. Okay. Any questions till now? Till whatever we saw here or outside the book, anything you want to know? Okay, so
Sir, what are isomers?
Oh, we'll speak about it right now. Good question. Isomers. But you don't know the structure of the compounds, but still no problem, right? So isomers. Okay, so you said that these are not there in the syllabus, but still we'll learn. We'll just give you a quick information about it, right? For example, people, right? I have a molecular formula like C4H10. Okay, I have a molecular formula of C4H10. Okay, so now for this molecular formula, I can write at least 2 structures. Okay, so how can I write? It's like this: CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. Like you don't have to worry about the structure at all because they are not going to ask you any of this. Maybe they will give. Do you have homologous series?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
then it's fine. Then we can learn about this, right? So this is what is called as butane. We don't have to worry about the names because we don't have the IUPAC naming for you. So this is one structure we can write. The other structure I can write is like putting 3 carbon atoms in the main chain, and this is hydrogen. I can write it as CH, and 1 carbon atom I can put it as a branch. Right now, you count the number of carbon atoms and the hydrogen atoms in both of them. They will give you the same molecular formula. Okay, this phenomena of compounds having same molecular formula but different structures, that is what is called as isomerism, right? And these 2 together are what are called as isomers. Okay, so when somebody asks you what is isomerism, tell them that it's a phenomenon where molecules or compounds have same molecular formula, but they have different structural formula or they have different structures. Okay, that is what is called as isomerism. Right. Understood, Kana? Whoever asked what is isomers?
Understood, sir. Understood, sir.
Okay, good. Right. So anyways, this is not important. It's not there for you. Right. So next one is homologous series. Right. Fine. So the simplest of all the carbon compounds, the simplest compound formed by a carbon and a hydrogen is what is called as the simplest.
Hydrocarbon.
Methane.
Yes, that's what I wanted. Methane. Right. So methane, protest is also going on, right, in Tanjore areas, right? From the sand, they want to take out the methane and stuff. Anyways, right. So carbon is there, right? I'm talking about hydrocarbons. Okay, and from the name itself, you can tell I'm going to have only hydrogen and carbon. That's it in the compound. No other element is present. Okay, now the simplest of all the hydrocarbons is just, you can understand that I have 4 bonds and all the 4 bonds are satisfied by hydrogen. Okay, this is what is called as your methane. Okay, right. Now, what you have done, what I do is if I take out one of the hydrogen, right? I take out one of the hydrogen. It should have been a hydrogen if it was methane, right? I take out this hydrogen and I put a carbon, for example, right? Now, what will you understand? This carbon again needs to have 3 more bonds added because one bond is already coming from this side, right? So this carbon again need to have 3 more bonds satisfied. Again, that can be hydrogens, right? So how will you write the molecular the formula? It will be CH3, CH3, right? Again, I can remove one more hydrogen atom, or say you can either remove from this side or you can remove from this side. It's going to get into the same result, right? Say I remove one more hydrogen atom and I put a carbon, right? Again, 3 more has to come. Again, so all three can be hydrogens. So next you will get CH3, CH2, CH3, right? So like this, and like now you have 3, 1. Like instead of removing from the end, I can even remove from the middle, put a CH3, right? So this is what is called as homologous series, right? So what do you mean by homologous series? From the simplest of all the hydrocarbons, right? If I replace one of the hydrogen atom with a carbon atom, I will be ending up with the next homologous series. That is, from methane, I will be able to get ethane. This is what is called as your ethane, right? And if you go for the next homologous series, that is 3 carbon, okay, not this one, 3 carbon atoms, that is what is called as propane, right? So what you have, like I can give you a table if you want. So if you have only 1 carbon atom in the main chain, right? The root word, what do you mean by root word? This prop, eth, meth, hept, hex, all these are what are called as root words, and you have to remember it. And it's easy to remember also, right? So if you have only 1 carbon atom, the root word is meth. If you have 2 carbon atoms, it is eth. 3 means prop, 4 means bute. I'll write here 5 means pent, 6 means hex, 7 means hept, 8 means oct, 9 means non, 10 means dec. Okay, right? I think till 10 and all, maybe if you want to remember, you can remember, right? So if you have only 1 carbon atom, 2 10 carbon atom, all these are the root words. Okay, right? So basically, they will have only one carbon atom adding to the terminal ends. You remove 1 hydrogen atom, put a carbon atom. That's it, right? So that is what is called as your homologous series. Okay, right? So anything else you have in the chapter? Do you have about alkenes, alkynes, all these things you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Right. So that you see, right? You now you see only carbon, hydrogens in all of them, right? Another thing what you see is that between 2 carbon atoms, right? Between 2 carbon atoms, there is only 1 bond. Yes, there is only 1 bond. Now we are going for the special property of carbon, that it has the capability of forming multiple bonds with itself, right? Okay. So if I go to that, and if I go to that, right? Say now remember, for me to have an alkene, for example, alkene, right? If you have an alkene, right, minimum there should be 2 carbon atoms, right? Why we have to have a minimum 2 carbon atom? Because we are talking about multiple bonds and multiple bonds between carbon atoms. How can I have a double bond with only 1 carbon atom? Not possible, isn't it? So minimum I require 2, not only for alkenes, even for alkynes, I require a minimum of 2 carbon atoms, right? Okay. Now, how will I understand this? It's very simple, right? So maybe you start with ethene. Now you see, in root word stays same, right? Root word doesn't depend on what kind of compound it is. Root word just depends on how many carbon atoms are there, right? If at all there are 2 carbon atoms, it is eth. If it is 3, it's prop, so on and so forth. And the other part, that if I can just break it into 2 parts, the other part talks about your what kind of compound it is, right? It is an alkane or alkene or alkyne or alcohol, aldehyde, ketone. There are thousands of functional groups. Okay, so the second part talks about what kind of compound it is, and the first part talks about how many carbon atoms are there in the particular molecule. Okay, right. So I understand it's ethene. That means whenever you see this ene, that means there is a double bond. Right? So I understand that there are only 2 carbon atoms from the name, right? And it's an ene, so obviously I should have a double bond. Then satisfy all the other one with hydrogens, right? So understand, for this carbon, 2 bonds are over. Totally 4 bonds has to be satisfied. Same way for this carbon, totally 4 bonds, 2 bonds are done. So I need to have 2 more bonds, and all these are hydrogens. Okay, maybe I forgot one important stuff. There is something called as general formula, right? So for alkanes, what is the general formula, people? What?
CnH2n plus
Cn into H2n minus 2.
No. It's Cn
Oh, plus 2.
H2n plus 2. Yes, that's it.
H2n plus
Yeah, correct. Right. The general formula is Cn H2n plus 2. Right. So if you just the end starting is 1. Right. So if it's 1, methane. If it's 2, ethane. 3, propane. So on and so forth. That is again the homologous series. Okay. So for alkenes, it is Cn
H2n.
Absolutely right. It's Cn H2n. That's it. Right. You see, 2 carbon atoms, 4 hydrogen atoms. So it's like this. The formula is what? C2H4. The other, what will be propane's formula? Sorry, propene's formula. C3H6. C3H6. How will you write? Now you understand, irrespective of how many ever carbon atoms you have, right? Irrespective of how many ever carbon atoms you have, the double bond can exist between any 2 carbon atoms. Please understand. Again, I'll repeat. Irrespective of how many, even if you have 1000 carbon atoms, right? If it's an alkene and satisfying this formula, CnH2n, that means there is only 1 double bond in the molecule. That means even if there are so many carbon atoms, between any 2 carbon atoms, I can have the double bond. All the other carbon atoms are going to be single bonds. That's what you need to understand. Right. So how will I write the structure now? Say you put 3 carbon atoms first. Okay. Now you know it's an alkene. So there should be a double bond. So either between these 2 or between these 2, you put a double bond. You should not put both the double bond here and double bond here. You should not put it. Right. So you should put, say I'm putting in between the first and second carbon atom. Right. The other one should be a single bond. No doubt about it. Single bond. Done. Right. Fine. Now satisfy the hydrogens. Now this carbon, 2 bonds are over, 2 more bonds. So put 2 hydrogens. This carbon, 1, 2, 3. 3 bonds are over. So there is only 1 more hydrogen required. And you see for this carbon, only 1 bond is satisfied. Other 3 bonds should be hydrogens. Okay. So how will I write the proper structure? CH2, double bond CH, CH2. The same thing. Like instead of writing the hydrogens like this, I write the hydrogens like this. This become propene, right? Now there can be a confusion when you go for butene, right? So we'll go for butene. I'll see what happens. What is the can you tell me what can be the confusion if you go for butene? When I go for C4H8, that is what is butene, CnH2n, right? Say I have 4 carbon atoms now, right? What is the confusion I will get?
where we need to put a double bond.
Absolutely. Right. Where I need to put the double bond. Right. So either you can see, you can write the number it as 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4. Both of them are right. No doubt about it. Okay. So either you can put the double bond between this 2 or I'll not draw it. Say you can put the double bond between 1 and 2 or you can put the double bond between 2 and 3. Again, if you go for 3 and 4, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 are same because it's symmetric. Again, I repeat, you can put the double bond between 1 and 2, or you can put the double bond between 2 and 3. And if you can ask me, sir, what happens when I go for 3 and 4? 3 and 4 is same as 1 and 2 because it is symmetric. Okay, so there are only 2 possibilities: either this 1 and 2 or this between 2 and 3, and both are correct, right? And both are correct. And you see, they're going to have same molecular formula, but different structure. This is where your isomerism comes into the picture. Same molecular formula, but different structure. Both of them are right. So you can draw 2 structures for butene. That is CH2. Again, hope you, I don't have to show it like this, right? You can, if based on the number of bonds between each of the carbon atom, accordingly you'll put the hydrogen atoms, right? Okay, so if I write the structure CH2, CH, CH2, CH3 between 1 and 2, or between 2 and 3, right? So this is what is called as but 1 ene, because why am I putting but 1 ene? Because in the first carbon atom I have a double bond, right? You can ask me, sir, in the second carbon atom also I have a double bond. In IUPAC naming, there is a rule. The rule says that if you have a confusion between taking the numbers, take the number which has least, or say take the minimum number. Between 1 and 2, 1 is smaller, so I take that number. That is a rule. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting and very good, fun way of learning IUPAC naming, but there's not there. Still, we'll not speak about it, right? So now this compound, the second one I wrote for butene, right, can be written as but2-ene. Now again, why am I putting but2-ene? In the second carbon atom, you see there's a double bond. Again, you can ask, the third carbon atom also has, the same rule applies. Minimum number should be taken. Okay, you don't have to worry about the names because I don't think that's important for you. But what you have to understand is, how am I going to create the homologous series with respect to alkenes? Again, I can have much more complications if I go for, again, higher numbers. If I go for pentene, again, I can have so much complications coming into the picture. Okay, right. So that is about alkenes. Then when I go for alkynes, right? Now alkynes at least will have one C triple bond C. Right? Now I know what is the general formula. General formula is CnH2n minus 2. Right? Say again, for you to form a triple bond, minimum requirement is 2 carbon atoms. You cannot form triple bond with 1 carbon atom. So methane or methene doesn't exist. But it's pure logic, because we require 2 carbon atoms to either make a double bond or a triple bond for that matter. Right? Okay. Say the first one will be CnH2n minus 2. So it is C2H2. Right? So it's very simple. If I have a C triple bond C, now for each of the carbon atom, 3 bonds are over. 1 more bond is only left. So you just put a H and a H on both sides. Right? So now when I say I go for propene, propene's formula will be C3H4. CnH2n is 6. 6 minus 2 will become 4. C3H4. Just apply the formula. N is equal to 3 here. Okay. So again, you can have a C triple bond C. Okay, first I'll put 3 carbon atoms. Right? Now again, you can ask, sir, between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, both are same, because I can put number as 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3 this way, either way. So either you put the double bond between these two, or sorry, triple bond between these two, or between these two, they are going to be same. Right? Okay. Say now I put a triple bond and one other one is a single bond. Right? So for this carbon, 3 bonds are satisfied. I just have to put 1 more hydrogen. And for this carbon, if you check 1, 2, 3, 4, all the 4 bonds are already satisfied. So nothing to this carbon. And this carbon, only 1 bond is satisfied. So 3 more bonds has to come. So I put 3 hydrogens. Okay. So that again becomes a homologous series for alkynes. Okay. Right. Do you have functional groups? Alcohols, aldehydes, ketones, the naming, all these things you have?
No, sir.
You don't have any functional group? You don't even, they didn't even tell you that there are functional groups like this, OH, CHO, COOH. It is not
They
there?
didn't tell us. They explained it just in case, because it's related to homologous series, but it's not there for the portion. It comes under the deleted portion.
Okay, okay. No, it's very but if you want to know, we can speak about it. But again, it will be too much of an ask for asking you to remember. Like given that you don't know the what to say, the IUPAC naming you don't know, right? But again, I don't think that will be asked, because you have to remember for each of them what is the name. For example, if it is alcohol, OH, you should remember that it has to end with OL. If it is an aldehyde, it has to end with AL, and so on and so forth. But I don't think they'll be asking you. Don't worry about it. right? If the IUPAC naming is not there, then studying about functional group is utter stupidity. Okay, don't worry about it. Right. Okay. Do you have the types of reactions? Addition reaction, elimination
No,
reaction?
sir.
You
No,
don't
sir.
have.
After this is deleted.
Very good. Very good. All good, important topics which are required for the 11th class is not there. Wonderful. Right. Okay. I think that's about it, right? Is there anything else which I missed on this chapter?
No, sir.
Okay. I covered everything. Right. So, and what is the time? Okay. It's almost 7:30. Right. Okay. Any questions you want to ask, guys? Any question wherever, like whenever you wrote some exams, you are not able to answer some questions. Is there not only from this chapter, for any other chapter you want to ask? We'll take 5 more minutes. Or anything outside of the book if you want to discuss. Some case, sir, I saw this new what is a new thing which came in the internet. It's very fascinating. Something like that. Anything related to science, not only related to chemistry, anything related to science. Okay, fine. So anyway, does any of you aspire to become or aspire to do research in science when you grow up? Anybody is there like that? Or the famous words, a scientist. Anybody wants to become a scientist? Nobody. Ah, sad. Why do you think it's a very boring life? Okay. Anybody wants to become a teacher? Doctors? Engineers?
I haven't decided what I want to be yet.
Okay.
So
Right.
that may hard to answer your question.
Understood. And makes sense at all. Makes sense. Maybe like that's the problem with our, the education system, right? Students, when you go to foreign, say for example, US, right? So by 8th or 9th class, they decide what they want to know. Basically, say how we do in Indian system, we study about everything. Everything we study, everything, right? And we don't master any one of them. When do we master is out of our own interest. For example, I love chemistry, so I would love to master it, right? So those cases are very, very, very few cases in India, right? But when I go to foreign, maybe that guy will be interested only in mathematics, and he really is very bad at science, say biology or physics is very bad at it. So what will he do? There are options that he'll be able to choose only mathematics, and he'll be able to go in depth in mathematics, right? So those kind of stuffs are there. So but good, what to say, faith, belief can be brought in with the new educational policy. I think you all know national educational policy, and everybody knows,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah.
Good. Like now you are going to be the what to say, you are going to get benefited, right? So I think they have given a new rule also. For studying engineering, you don't need all the three subjects. You don't need physics, chemistry, and mathematics. You require only one of them if you're going to master. Like for example, if you're going to study mechanical engineering, there is no point in learning chemistry. Maybe the basics are required, but those basics will be eventually covered. It's not going to take much of a time in mechanical engineering, right? Say if I'm going to be a chemical engineer, or if I'm going to study BSc chemistry, for example, right? I don't require much of physics. I do require. It's not like I don't require it, but still not that much. Again, that particular parts wherever it is required, that again can be covered in the college level, right? So and again, coding is again a booming. Coding as a field is booming, right? So I think that is why they are bringing in coding in your 6th class itself. I think 6th class. I think they're going to introduce coding. Right. What language are you reading now in your 10th class? C++?
C plus.
C plus.
C plus?
No, sir. C. Just
Oh,
C.
only C. Okay. C. Okay. Understood. I was very good at it. My 12th board exam, I was my school first. Yes, I got almost 96 in computer science. And that is the highest mark in all the subjects I got. All the other subjects were okay marks. Right. I love coding. Right. Anybody likes code? I don't know, but how they teach in school, I know. How they teach coding, I don't want to comment on it.
We haven't started any class for coding, sir.
Really?
Yes, sir. They gave us book, but they never started any class for it.
If you're really interested in coding, please go to some YouTube videos. There'll be wonderful, good tutorials. Basic level, they'll teach you. Right now that you have your phones, you have your laptops, you have internet connection, everybody is working from home and stuff. You can actually spend some time on YouTube and enhancing your skills. Not like if you whatever you're interested. It can be say cooking, it can be fashion designing, it can be anything. It can be video editing, it can be short film making, it can be anything which you're interested. Right there, for everything, the basics which you have to know is available in YouTube. You just have to type the right words, right keywords. If you have to type, right, you're gonna find everything there. Right. So like I find it absolutely disgusting that like when I was a kid, my mom will find it very difficult to make me sit in a place. Right. But now instead of your mom and dad, the entire government is making you sit in one place and making sure that no student goes out of the house. Totally pathetic. But again, situation is like that. Anyways, guys, so much talks. Any other questions you want to ask? We'll wind up now. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I think only one more chapter is left. The chapter is periodic table, right? So I think next week, whenever we have class, we'll look into it. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Sir.
Yeah,
Thank
cool.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.